Hi, the introverted cynist here. Today, I am going to explain a 2021 French science fiction thriller film called Oxygen. Warning, spoilers ahead. Kick back and take care. The movie begins with a woman in a cocoon, struggling to get out. After breaking free, with her fingers, she takes out the IV needle in her arm and begins to reckon. She realizes that she is strapped into several wires and is able to hear a heartbeat simultaneously. She now understands that she is in a cryogenic medical pod. Suddenly, the pod brightens up, showing her vital signs, and a computer voice in the unit informs her that her oxygen level is decreasing and there is a system failure. The voice then introduces itself as her medical interface liaison operator, short for Milo, to answer all her medical needs. Being confused, the woman now asks Milo where she is because she can't remember anything and requests Milo to let her out. But says he can't satisfy that request and offers her a sedative which she rejects. Apparently, a heating problem in the processor caused a depletion in her oxygen reserves, which made her wake up. The woman searches every nook and corner of the unit for a way out and asks Milo if he has informed anyone about the system failure, but Milo mentions no one has responded to it yet. The woman, now panicking, tries to calm herself by saying she isn't trapped in a box but is in the hospital, then tries to recollect her past. A short series of flashback is seen about a woman next to a man and a girl riding a swing. The woman, now oblivious, asks Milo on who she is. Milo informs her that she is a bioform named Omicron 267 and gets an image of herself. When asked about her medical report, Milo says the cryogenic reanimation procedure is incomplete and would take approximately 7 minutes and 53 seconds to upload. The woman now asks Milo to unlock the unit but is unable to do it because she does not have the authorization code. Fortunately, Milo arranges a call from the unit to the police and informs them about her ordeal. The police try to calm her and says they are trying to locate the call but will take time. Just then, she finds the name of the company, Cryosolide, and the serial number of the unit and informs to the police. But unfortunately, the call gets disconnected. The woman now requests Milo to get a DNA search for Omicron 267 and gets images of her revealing her identity. The woman's name is Elizabeth Hansen, and she slowly tries to regain her memories. Then suddenly, she gets a call from Captain Moreau from Science and Technology, who is working with the police, inquiring about her oxygen levels, to which Milo says 31% and dropping. The captain now assures Elizabeth to be rescued as soon as possible. Elizabeth now asks Milo for a full medical checkup for Omicron 267. Milo then reveals that Elizabeth is not sick and is expected to live till 82 years of age. Elizabeth starts weeping due to the fact that she was actually well and is kept in the unit purposefully, slowly raising her blood pressure. The captain tries to console and advises Liz to focus and breathe to conserve energy. Liz now asks the captain for the admin codes to open the pod, to which he says will take some time, but due to a connection problem, the call gets disconnected and is not able to reconnect. Liz, while crying with no hope, suddenly, a sedation protocol is initiated due to a fall in oxygen levels. But fortunately, Liz escapes it. The scene then cuts to a small flashback, revealing a man creating a hologram of an insect wing. But then quickly, Milo manifests her oxygen level plummeting to 22%. Next, she appeals to Milo to find everything on Liz. He then displays a series of academic articles, press references, and social media photos of Liz. After going through the press articles, she notices that she is a Nobel Prize winner and a doctor of cryogenics. She then gets a glimpse of her carrying out experiments on an organism in a lab and then learns that she did this to herself without knowing why. She then observes her events with a man, Leo, who turned out to be her husband, enjoying vacation on several locations, including Maui, looking cheerful. She also notices a scar on his forehead and caresses it. She then tries to call him, but a woman picks up the phone. Liz now informs the woman that she is Leo's wife and demands to speak to him. The woman becomes confused and hangs up, instructing her not to call again. Liz, now frustrated, sets herself free from the harness and while looking around, suddenly comes across a rat loitering around, making her feel uncertain. She then gets a glimpse of a rat experiment being conducted in the lab. Later, with no other option, she uses the IV needle as a tool to scratch the corner of the pod, but gets a minor electric shock for trying to damage it, making her give a flash of her past. The oxygen level is now 20%. Liz, now crying, gets a call from the captain, informing her that they will soon find her and his men are at Cryosolite as they speak to get the codes to release her. She then informs him that she is losing track of time and starts seeing images. The captain then composes her by saying she is experiencing a psychotic episode induced by isolation. While speaking, Liz now deliberately injures herself as to recollect her past. A glimpse into her past with Leo is shown, along with a syringe with his name on it. Liz then asks the captain about her husband Leo and his whereabouts. The captain now takes a pause and says that she is hallucinating and informs her she has never been married and there is no Leo on her file. Liz, now baffled, tries to check the archives to prove him wrong, but to her surprise, Leo's photo with her is nowhere to be found, but still contends that Leo is real. She also informs him about the call with a woman, but he still doesn't get convinced. Liz, now adamant, dismisses his theory. Just then, she vaguely hears another person speak to the captain, and when asked about it, nervously assures her it is no one, and promises to get the codes soon, and disconnects the call. Liz, now uncertain and paranoid with what the captain said, then instructs Milo to play the last few seconds of the call. It was then revealed that there was a third person on the call, instructing the captain to tell her that she's hearing things because of the stress she's under. The scene now shows Leo feeling sick and is then taken to a hospital. She then receives a call back from the police, but suspects they are hiding something from her and disconnects. The woman from earlier calls Liz covertly, saying she doesn't have much time and says it wasn't supposed to happen this way. But Liz demands her to put Leo on the call. The woman then reveals it is impossible because Leo is dead. Liz, now in disbelief, gets informed that she has the codes to release Liz and wants to help her, but also begs her to listen to her first. Impatient, Liz demands the codes and then she gives the codes to get administrative control. The woman then finally warns Liz that she would die if she opened the unit and says that she can prove it to her. Liz becomes apprehensive and pauses the unlocking procedure. She then tells Liz to go into the system preferences and find the centrifuge controls, then switch them to 0. Milo now turns off the micro thrusters, making Liz float around in her pod while mentioning that long exposure to zero gravity can be harmful. Unfortunately, Liz is around 40,000 miles away from Earth and will be soon beyond the range of their communication satellites, with still the oxygen plummeting. Liz then initiates the centrifuge rotation, making the gravity to be restored. The woman then reveals Liz was placed in hypersleep for a 34-year journey to a 14 light-year distant planet from Earth to carry out a covert mission, but something went wrong and the woman is unable to bring Liz back home. The woman then reveals she designed the system for a military mission to colonize a new planet as mankind will be extinct in the near future due to a deadly virus that killed several million people. When asked about the captain, the woman says he was just following orders because the mission is confidential and it was impossible for the officials to foresee Elizabeth's reaction after she arrives. While discussing, the woman confirms that Leo was real and he was sick due to the virus and says Elizabeth was in hypersleep for 12 years to carry out the mission. Since her oxygen is dropping and soon to be out of range, the woman requests her to let her help because she designed the pods and she can put Liz back into hypersleep. She then instructs Liz to look for what made her awake in the first place. Milo then informs it was due to a processor overheating due to a loss of oxygen reserves, which controls brain activity. The woman tells Liz to divert the processor's functions to a non-essential processor, which is not in charge of her essential functions. After searching for a viable processor, Liz orders Milo to transfer the data to the processor they found, but it can't be done because the capacity of the first processor exceeds that of the one found. The woman gets a visit from the army, so she tells Liz to remember everything that she knows about the pods and find a way to get back to hypersleep before the oxygen drops under 2%. Before the call ends, the woman tells her to find Leo so she can find her memories. The oxygen levels drop to 11%. Liz, now delirious, uses a needle to get electrocuted so as to remember her past. She only remembers Leo dying in a hospital. Liz shocks herself again and again until she remembers Leo telling her that they will meet again on his deathbed. As time passes by, and with oxygen levels depleting, she decides to suicide by attempting to open the pod and proceeds to use the access code. Just then, Liz aborts unlocking the pod and asks how many Omicron units are present within her radius. Milo responds that there are nearly 10,000 units. She asks for a visual, and when Milo shows her, she sees a dead body in front of her unit and gets frightened. Liz now gets an astronomical view of all the units in a ship surrounding her. It was then revealed the ship carrying the pods was hit by an unknown asteroid. Many of the pods have been lost. She asks Milo about Leo and tries to find him and make sure his pod is still operational. Suddenly, she remembers the number of his medical file and asks Milo to check if pod number 42 is functional. Milo shows her the fully operational pod and uncovers Leo's face from the cocoon. Liz then notices that he is missing his scar on his face and realizes something. Later, after checking the archives, a video presentation titled Memory Transfer, presented by an elderly woman, is played. The elderly woman turned out to be the original Elizabeth Hansen, giving a speech about cloning an identical human with all memories implanted from the original. It was then revealed that Omicron 267 is a genetic clone of the original Elizabeth Hansen's personality and memories, including the memories of Leo. The woman she has been speaking to on Earth is the original and now elderly Elizabeth Hansen. Liz becomes uneasy and asks what the term Omicron means. Milo then replies, Omicrons are non-contaminated genetic human reproductions designed to propagate the human race in the new planet, Wolf 10-61C. Omicron 267, now devastated to learn that she is just a disposable clone and a space waste, spinning in space, cries out loud, saying that she wants to live, with the oxygen level reaching a critical threshold of 4%. With no other hope, while preparing herself for death, she records a message for Omicron 42, where a clone of Leo is kept. Omicron 267, now having an emotional breakdown, describes their relation by telling him that she can remember their entire life together and ironically feel it as a void inside of her because they have never even met. Just then, Omicron 267 suddenly decides not to give up. She then quickly asks Milo to search for alternative processors but incurs another problem. Milo now tells her the chances of survival have dropped below the acceptable parameters and the euthanasia protocols have been initiated in case of disaster scenarios. Omicron 267 tries to stop the protocol by asking how it is administered. Milo says it is administered intravenously, but she remembers taking out her needle on her hand. She is then informed that it will be administered through the harness strapped through her abdomen and through her leg. Omicron 267 immediately releases the belt, with the countdown reaching to 20. She then finally reaches for the IV in her foot and takes it out before the drug can reach her. Omicron 267, now contented, instructs Milo to deactivate the processor meant for disaster scenarios and redirect it towards the processor that controls brain activity. After a successful transfer, Omicron 267 becomes overjoyed and gets ready to initiate the hypersleep protocol. But Milo then informs it is impossible because the umbilical medical ring, the 2 IVs, and the cerebral monitor are all unhooked. She now races against time and quickly hooks her harness, connects the 2 IVs on her foot and hand, and finally connects the helmet with great trepidation before reaching the countdown. Unfortunately, the oxygen level has reached 1% and Milo tells her that she won't survive resuscitation. She apologizes to Leo for not staying alive and Milo terminates the recording. Omicron 267 slowly runs out of oxygen, but recalls there could still be some left in the other pods. She quickly tells Milo to divert the oxygen from another functional pod to her pod. After a successful transfer, he puts her back into hypersleep. Milo now asks her if she wants a sedative, and this time she accepts delightfully. Lastly, she renames her clone to Liz and falls asleep. The final scene shows the clone of Leo awaiting Elizabeth's arrival on the new planet. They then get reunited, smiling and embracing each other, and live happily ever after. Thanks for watching. Make sure to like and comment if you enjoyed, and subscribe for more videos.